evening, everyone. Welcome to the August edition of the Canyon Country Advisory Committee. As normal, we'll start out with our call to order and our flag salute, and then we'll have some announcements. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the City of Santa Clarita homelessness plan, because it's something that we can comment on. I'll kind of give you an idea of what I've commented, and hopefully then you can put in what your thoughts of the matter is going to be as well. Then, I've been hearing a lot about traffic dieting. And what the traffic dieting typically is when someone makes the decision that they're going to take a lane away to cause traffic to calm. I think it's just to cause traffic to deadlock, but it's whatever it is. And I happened to see a street that had just been recently striped, and it looked awful like that. We'll talk a little bit about what traffic dieting is. Now, the city did call me today and ask me which street I was referencing, and they tell me the street's been that way the whole time, but we'll go validate it for us. But still, we want to make sure that traffic dieting doesn't come to Santa Clarita. We need every lane of traffic that we can find. Then we took a little pictorial trip around Santa Clarita the other day, and Rick Drew will help narrate it. And we went around to a whole bunch of areas of interest, things that are going on all around the city, and I think you'll find it pretty interesting. Then we'll talk about the City Council election meet and greet plans and how we intend to handle that starting next month. And lastly, our keynote speaker, who should be walking through the door about 8:15, will talk to us about human trafficking in the Santa Clarita Valley. Mr. Broyles conducts a class tonight, and he will get out of his class at right about 8 o'clock, and he's going to hot-foot it over here. And I said, we'll make sure that everybody's ready to hear you. And I heard him speak at a Rotary. He's a really good speaker. He's very knowledgeable, and he should have some messages that I think is really important for our residents to understand. Then our version of public participation, which is the first 5 people that want to speak for 1 minute. We'll give you a little next meeting preview, and then we'll adjourn promptly at 9 o'clock. We always look for somebody or something that's going on where people have done something exceptional over the past month, and I can't think of anything more exceptional than what our firefighters have been going through to try to get all of these blazes here in California under control. And it also talks to us a little bit about how we as a community, not we as individuals, but we as a community and as a state need to look at how we manage our forests and how we manage our open space to hold the danger of fire down. But anyway, we've lost I think 17 civilians, and we've lost 4 or 5 firefighters. How many firefighters? 9? 8? 7? Hey, I'll get it 8. I'll get it right if I keep. Yeah, we've lost 8 firefighters, and it does show that's an occupation that is dangerous, and there are heroes there, and there are heroes all around us. And so with that, Judy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since this is August, and since our next meeting will be after 9/11, and I'm a little disappointed that we don't spend more time honoring what goes on and what happened on 9/11. Just as a reminder, this happens to be the flag out in front of my house. It gets replaced every year on the morning of 9/11 and then flies the whole year. And I always like to tell a story about how it becomes tattered and torn over the year. It reminds me of the trials and tribulations that our men and women in uniform go through to try to hold us to be safe, to keep us safe. And at the end of the year, when the flag comes down, I don't retire it. I give it a place of honor inside the house. When the 10-year anniversary of 9/11 occurred, I did a display of the 10 flags, and I plan to do this again on the 20th, and I will have all 20 flags out flying one more time, just to show just exactly how much I really believe that we need to remember what happened on that day. So for announcements, a little bit of information. At the Old Town New Hall Association meetings every single month, the sheriffs come up and talk about the number of crimes that occurred during that month. And this month, when Deputy Shackelford showed up to talk about it, she showed this chart, and we looked at it and we went, whoa! I mean, it looked like there was like 3 times as many as there were before. And when we asked about it, we said, what's this big increase? She said, well, what we're doing as a police department, what we're doing is we're going out, and the majority of these arrests were observational. So we're going out and we're seeing people that look like they're incapacitated drug-wise, or there's certain problems, and we're proactively going and trying to keep the city safe. And I think that's a great thing. I think it shows Captain Lewis is really interested in making our city safer. And it just says that our sheriff's department is, in fact, trying to do their best to take care of it. As far as announcements, you got one more day if you intend to go to the Veterans Summer Social, which is at the Senior Center on the 21st. The Rotary, the Sunshine Rotary, is having a car show, which is alternate types of vehicles. So you'll see a lot of electric vehicles, and I know at least one electric motorcycle that'll be there. And so that's something that you might think about going to. On August the 24th, Henry Mayo is having their community health fair, and it's going to be from 7:30 to 10:30. For the Newhall Community Center, we still have a little bit of time to register for the fall sign-up, and there's still a few days left. So if you have children or grandchildren that might benefit from that, there's still some time to get ahead and get involved. And this is also their Leap After School program, which would start on the 20th. So now that school's starting again, it's something for the kids after school activities. On the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, down on Main Street in Newhall, there's going to be the Chalk Festival. There's going to be some professional artists that have been contracted to come and do art. There'll be a place where if you want to get down on your knees and do some chalking on the street, you can. And if you don't want to get down on your knees, there'll be places where you can do some chalking standing up and at a table. But it's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. On the 29th, the Santa Clarita Artist Association will be holding their fundraiser, and it's kind of a fine art show and a gala. It'll be from 1:30 to 5 on the 29th. Powwow returns to Hart Park on October the 6th and 7th. So if you would like to go out and see some of the native Indian dances, they'll be available for you then. And Henry Mayo is holding a family food and fitness classes starting October the 9th. There's 16 sessions, and if you're interested, you can RSVP to them. And then there's my all-time favorite, which is Dorothy Dixon Duck and the Rubber Ducky Regatta. and that will take place on October the 13th. And as a board member for Samuel Dixon Family Health Centers, every time you adopt a duck, it allows and provides for more additional health care for someone that is uninsured or underinsured. And if you train your duck well and your duck wins, there's a $2,000 prize in it for you. So there's going to be a lot of interesting games for the kids, and I hope that you can make it. Let's talk a little bit about the Clarita homelessness plan. There is a plan out online on the city website, and it was a result of a $50,000 grant that the city got to hire some consultants to tell us what the most important things about homelessness were and what could be done. And in addition to that, the city formed an ad hoc committee to look at the issue with Marcia McLean and Cameron Smythe at the helm. Now, the difference between an ad hoc committee and a real committee is they don't have regular meetings, they don't notice their meetings, they don't have any minutes, and you have to be invited to attend. So it just kind of tells you a little bit about how that's been operating. So I did turn around, and I've already turned in some comments to what the plan says. And the thing that I have a lot of difficulty is the plan revolves around nonprofit stakeholders to take the lead in the program of impacting the homeless. So it basically says, here we are, we're the big city, we got all these consultants, we're going to tell you what to do, now you go fix it. And I think that's just wrong. So one of the other parts about this is that you've heard a lot about Measure H, and you contribute to Measure H in your property taxes. And when Measure H was first being discussed, and it was just a pie in the sky thing, the city refused to participate in its design. So the way it ends up is the homeless count determines the maximum amount that we can receive. And based upon, and we are included in an area with the San Fernando Valley. So if we get the absolute maximum that we can get, ratioed from the homeless count, 48,000 homeless, we have 300 and some, that's about a little over $2 million. Well, we'll be contributing $7 million a year. So it's still important that we get as much as we can, because this is now the law. It's 30 years we're going to be in that position. So as I said, the city formed this ad hoc committee after Measure H passed, and it operates without the general public's involvement. And it doesn't have meetings or minutes. I got invited to one, because everybody got invited to one when there was complaints about this meeting, and I showed up. And I sat there for 45 minutes watching them, listening to them to discuss something they had on paper that they were sharing amongst themselves that they didn't let us see. And afterwards I went up to Cameron Smythe and I said, Cameron, just a suggestion, it would really be nice if you would include and distribute the material to everybody that's there so that we knew what you were talking about. And the answer that I got was, well, you're just lucky you got invited at all. Well, there you go. Okay, well, I didn't get invited from that point, but we'll see what happens in the future. So I commented on the fact that I think that the information in that homelessness plan, in part, is due to the fact that they decided who was going to be there. And so when they decided who was going to be there, it could have been far more open and probably a lot more comprehensive if they would have allowed the general public to attend. One of the comments that I had about this plan that I made in a Gazette article that the city took great exception to was that the plan is not an action plan. It's a plan for a plan. Okay? So I grabbed a portion of it off here so you could see it. I don't remember if I made it larger. And what you can see is that in each section of this, the first task that they do is writing another plan. Doesn't help much, right? And then the second thing that I looked at is I said, who's responsible for the plan? And they said, oh, it's identified. Can you identify who is responsible for the plan from that? I can't. And any time that you turn around and say, oh, the responsible person is a group, is an organization, you know what that means. If you really want to find out who it is, you're going to call up and everyone's going to say, well, it's not me. So there you go. So that was one of the comments I made too. So then they say, here's the areas of greatest need. Did we really need a $50,000 study to tell you that a year-round shelter is needed in Santa Clarita? I don't think so. I don't think we need that. I think if I would have got any two people, in a room and said, what's the area of greatest need, that they would have said that right away. Our shelter's been operating for 20 years. Okay? It's been over on Drayton Street for 6. And it still doesn't have water or sewage hooked up. It doesn't have sidewalks. It doesn't have street lights. And it doesn't have any permanent buildings. All right? And now they're telling us, oh, well, we're going to plan to see how you can make this a permanent year-round shelter. Because part of the Measure H funding that they want to get is predicated on it being a year-round shelter. Now, yes, the city did give $1 million worth of property to the shelter owners. Okay? But that doesn't build a building. It doesn't hook anything up. And I don't know what to say. So the next thing they said was, we need affordable, permanent, and supportive housing. Well, I made it a little bit bigger, but I remember when Paul Brotzman was still the planning director. And I went into Paul Brotzman's office and I said, Paul, I understand that it's about $70,000 in permits and fees to build a single-family dwelling. And he says, you're wrong. It's $80,000. So by now it's probably 90, 95, I don't know what it is. But if we have almost $100,000 in permit fees and permits and fees required to build a single, how are you going to have affordable housing if you need $100,000 before you put a shovel in the ground? So I commented on that. I said the city needs to go do something so that possibly we can lower these fees. And then preventing homelessness. And when they talked about preventing homelessness, they said, we're going to go to the schools and we're going to get the schools to identify the individuals who are potentially homeless. We'll hand out surveys to kids and they can tell us. Well, wait a minute. What about families that don't have school-age kids? What about seniors? Right? And just yesterday, okay, I was approached by a very nice person who told me that one of the people that we know at the senior center, because of the increase in rents, is now going to become homeless. So let's hope that something happens. But that's not something, I don't believe, it's a long-term thing. It's not something that you're going to get nonprofits to go and do over the long pull. Drug addiction and prevention. There was a lot of information about drug addiction and prevention because Action Family Counseling was one of the people that made this thing up, right? But there was no mention of primary health care or dental. And as far as I know, I would think homeless people need some health care now and then. I know that our organization and Samuel Dixon, we want to put a partial clinic there at the shelter, but because of the government requirement, we can't without running water and sewage. I mean, and it's just a situation where we need to also make sure that we have those kinds of things available, because Northeast Valley and Samuel Dixon are both in the business of providing health care for those people that can't afford it, and I think it's an honorable thing to do, but we need to have the ability to do it and have the facilities to do it in. Linking the homeless to services, Social Security and SSI, I have personal experience in doing that. And when I first moved out here to Santa Clarita, I had a friend that said, move in with me while you're looking for a house. And save a little bit of money, and we'll split up some costs. So my wife and I moved in with Eddie, and we were there for about 6 months, and then we moved into our house. And then fast forward, probably now, about 12 to 15 years ago, and we found Eddie wandering on Sierra Highway homeless. Well, it turned out that he's a functional alcoholic, and he was in an accident and in some way was impaired. And when you went and brought him, we got him an apartment, and when we took him to Social Security, I was the one that ended up taking him to Social Security, they wouldn't give him any money. And the reason why they wouldn't give him any money, because they said, based upon your condition, you can't handle money. So you need to have a Social Security representative payee to handle the money and distribute it out and take care of your bills for you. And that's what I ended up doing for 7 years. And unfortunately, after that, Eddie passed away. But we need to have people that are trained in doing that are willing to do that, because it's going to be something that's truly needed. Then they talk about subsidized jobs and housing. Well, sure, that's the Canyon Country Advisory Committee can probably hire someone for double what they pay me. Well, that's another story, but it's not something nonprofits would hire. What about the city providing some part-time employment? Because they have a lot of part-time jobs. How about if they do that, or possibly some of the cases where they hire contractors to do stuff because they don't want to do it. Then they say, oh, it would really be good if we had town halls so you could all know what we're doing. Well, you know what? It really upsets me because they've done exactly the opposite up to this point. So yeah, I said, yeah, let's have quarterly town halls. It'd be very welcome, and it's something we should do. But they said in the document, they said, we're going to identify all the key stakeholders. They're going to be identified in Appendix A. There is no Appendix A. So I don't know if they just left it off of the copy we're reviewing, or it's a typo, but anyway, they can handle it as they need it. So it's on the city website. You go on the city website and you can download it, or if you have trouble, you give me a call, and I'll give you a link. And you have till the 22nd to comment. And I don't know how many people have commented. I don't know what's going to happen after the comments are in. Okay, but I think it's something that we need to truly address. Is there any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, the fees that you were talking about, $100,000, is that all city fees? And how is that in line with other cities?
I have no idea how it's in line with other cities. It's for permits, okay, and it's for connection fees. You have water connection, sewage connection, electrical connection, blah, blah. Every one of those are associated with a fee.
School fees. School fees,
right. Yeah, I remember the last time it was in 1998, I went and did this huge 242 square foot addition on my house, and they had me running around everywhere. I had to run the water company. To prove I wasn't adding a bathroom. I had to run the schools to make sure I wasn't adding a bedroom. All the people that collect money and so forth. So there you go. Okay, so on the next two meetings, we're going to be doing city council meet and greets, and hopefully we're going to have some very interesting people here. Not as interesting as Dan, but maybe yes. How many what?
Candidates are you going to have?
8.
So 4 and 4?
Yeah. That's all we have time for.